Hi all, this is a quick overview of the Richmar unit, which you are familiar with because you used it when you were doing ultrasound. But now going forward, for electric stim, you're only going to be concerned with the dials and buttons below the ultrasound that's highlighted in the stim area. We have here, this would be time and intensity, time in minutes rather, and this would be our intensity. We have different profiles that are preset that we don't use in this class. And then further down we have our waveforms. We have quadrupolar interferential, pre-mod, Russian, high volt, microcurrent. Down further we have in our mode, we can either have a choice of normal, surge, co-contraction, or alternating. For our on-off time, we have anywhere from 10 to 50 to 5 to 5. Here for pulse rate, which is the same as frequency, we can either set it at a high sweep, which means that it will sweep or move from a high to a low number. We have a low frequency, or we have a fixed frequency. Down further we have 4 channels, channel 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that will correspond with our wires down here, channel 1, 2, we don't have 3 and 4 in. This dial here is going to adjust to changes that we see in intensity. So let's do a trial. We're going to choose pre-mod, and notice when pre-mod, when we choose that, it automatically lights up to surge. The on-off time is 10 to 50, and we have a fixed pulse rate. But how do we know what that pulse rate is? Well, if we come up here to another place that pulse rate is written, and we hit that button, it sets it at 100, or it tells us that it's set at 100. We can adjust this by either doing the up-down arrows, or we can also adjust it by turning this dial. We know that when we are setting our parameters, there are 3 main ones we're concerned with. Intensity is one, which will be controlled here. Okay, that's where it'll be registered. Frequency or pulse rate, which we've already said, we can adjust it by hitting this button and then moving up and down. Or we can adjust what type of pulse rate, whether we want a sweeping or a fixed. And the last one is pulse duration or pulse width. On the Richmar, you do not have the ability to adjust that. You will not find that dial here at all, and it will preset according to what waveform. If you wanted to know what it is, you can look up in your manual here. So let's go back. We were at our pre-mod, all right, and let's talk a little bit more about mode. If we hit the mode button and it now changes to co-contraction, we still have an on-off time, which means that we're doing NMES, or we're getting a muscle contraction. But note that now we have 2 channels lit up, because when we're doing co-contraction, we would be contracting both extensors and flexors simultaneously. If we change the mode button again and we go to alternating, again we still have 2 channels lit, but now what alternating would do is when extensors turn on, flexors will be off, and then flexors will turn on and extensors will be off. Lastly, if we change our mode again and we bring it up to normal, notice that our on-off time lights have gone out. So the difference between normal and surge is that in normal, the stimulation would be continuous. You don't have an on-off time. And that's what we would use when we were doing some type of TENS or pain control. If we switch to surge now, we have an on-off time. So when you're doing NMES, or an actual muscle contraction where we're moving the joint, we need it to be set onto surge. All right? Notice that surge not only having an on-off time, but has the fixed frequency. Let's go back again. Let's cycle around to normal. And we now have no on-off time, so the stim will be continuous. But look here, the pulse rate light has now changed to high. Well, what does that mean? We come back up to this button where we find out what the frequency is and we hit it. Look, we now have 2 numbers, 40 and 120, meaning that the frequency is going to move from a low point of 40 to a high of 120. It will sweep back and forth. If we come back down here to our pulse rate again, we change it now to a low, and we come up here and we hit the pulse rate. Now we see our numbers are between 2 and 15. Again, that's frequency. It'll be a low of 2 and a high of 15. If you want to change this number here, the 2, it only lasts for a certain period and then it reverts back to your minutes. But let's look at it again. We are at a low frequency and we can change that by, well, if we go up, we can change that here. The way we change this number is we need to come down to the dial. So let me come out further. So see, as I move that dial, we can do that, all right? And now we can we'll go back to minutes. And there's no intensity because I haven't turned it up, but intensity again will be controlled by this dial. If we wanted to make our duration longer, we would use these buttons. So remember, the up and down arrows go with the display to the left, and this display to the right is controlled by this dial down here. Lastly, if we wanted to go to a fixed pulse rate, which we could do, and now we come back up here, we hit this number, again we are at 100. All right. When only one display is being shown, nothing is here, we can change it either from here or we can change it from there, either one. So again, to recap, 3 things we're concerned with: intensity, and we haven't done anything with intensity yet. That would be here and would be controlled by this dial, but I don't want to be turning that up yet because I don't have any electrodes set up. Besides intensity, we have our frequency. We know what it is by hitting this, and we can adjust it by the type of either fixed or sweep by here. The last one being pulse duration. Remember, the Richmar cannot adjust it. It is preset. We do have some modulation. We have vector, which is modulating of our amplitude. And ramp is another type of modulation. And again, Richmar does not have the ability to adjust the ramp. It doesn't mean that ramp doesn't exist. It's preset. I believe it's preset for at least 2 seconds on and 1 second off. But you can always look at that for your different waveforms in your manual. Okay, I hope that this was beneficial.